Hi, it's Peter Schweizer, and welcome to the Drill Down. Well, it's the nation's 250th birthday this summer. But why does half of the country not want to celebrate? And how did the Democratic Socialists of America become our country's fastest growing political force? Could the problem be something called elite overproduction? We're going to unpack that today with Eric Eggers. Eric, how are you?
I feel both elite and overproduced, so I'm ready for today's podcast. Thank you for asking. How are you, Peter Schweizer?
I am doing well. I'm not feeling elite. I'm feeling populist. And I don't feel overproduced, even though I'm larger than you. So,
well, that's funny. The manufacturer of your shirt disagrees.
Well, we're going to discuss today some rather startling findings from a new CNN poll about what the attitude of Americans are towards their own country, towards our free market system. But we're going to go deeper than just sort of lament what's happened to our schools and our universities, and I think expose a very compelling theory that explains why our country is increasingly left-wing, who is increasingly left-wing, and I think it also explains why the left has the sorts of leaders that they actually have. But let's start with this new CNN poll, kind of shocking. I'm going to just give you a couple numbers, and I want to get your reaction. New CNN poll found that Republicans and Democrats are sharply divided on patriotism, flag displays, and the meaning of the 4th of July. 64% of Republicans said they would display an American flag or flag bunting outside their home on July 4th, compared to only 27% of Democrats. By the way, I will note this is not because Democrats live in apartments. This actually goes deeper than that, but that's a rather startling statistic.
Yeah, it's crazy to me that as many Democrats say they will display a flag around their home, 27%, basically, as the percent of Democrats that say the 4th of July is the day they want to celebrate the United States, or that and as many percentages, 24% of Democrats say they do not plan to celebrate the 4th of July, right? So it's a stark disparity in terms of the feelings around patriotism. To me, this is just like proof of what I have felt for some time. I think a problem Democrats have had is, I thought Kamala Harris kind of typified it during the campaign, her 107-day campaign, Peter Schweizer.
Yes.
When she would say, go around and kind of smile and I love this country. I didn't believe her.
Right.
And I think most people didn't, and I think that's one of the reasons why she didn't do so well. And it's clear that a lot of Democrats don't seem to love this country.
Yeah, in fact, according to that CNN poll, only 11% of Democrats believe the United States is the greatest country in the world, compared to 62% of Republicans. Now, what you'll hear a lot of times from people on the political left is, well, it's because of Trump. We hate Trump and what he's done to the country. But this, I think, is actually a longer-term trend. And of course, when Barack Obama was president, I don't recall a lot of Republicans saying, I'm not going to celebrate the 4th of July. I think Independence Day is a terrible idea, and I don't believe that my country is the greatest. They just didn't like the president. This is a longer running trend, and I ran across this theory. I want to just mention it to you and get your thoughts on it. This is the theory of elite overproduction. It's developed by an academic named Peter Turchin. And the theory is basically this, that when a society produces a lot of people who believe that they should be in the elite because their parents did well, because they are highly educated, they went to the Ivy League, they got a master's degree in, comparative religion, and then they go out in the real world and realize that nobody cares, that they're actually not going to make it into the elite, they become bitter and they become angry. And that leads them to challenge the existing political order because they're so angered by the fact that nobody has recognized that, hey, we're the new elite here. Hello, we know all the right questions and answers.
It's kind of like if you go into a maze, right, like at a fall festival or something, and you end up going in the wrong place, rather than having a moment of saying, hey, I've taken a wrong turn, maybe I should go back and try to figure out a different way. They get mad at the maze. The maze
yes,
is wrong.
Yes.
That's essentially what you're saying, right? They have chosen a path. The path did not end to where they thought they would be with a level of prosperity and affluence and, I guess status generally. And so they're like, okay, then the system's wrong. And it's interesting because, he wrote in 2010, he says, quote, the next decade is likely to be a period of growing instability in the United States and Western Europe. All these cycles look to set to peak in the year around 2020. He likened the elite overproduction to the accumulation of dead wood in a forest over many years, paving the way for a forest fire later on.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's and I think you can make the case that's exactly what's happened. And I think what's so appealing to me about this theory is that he goes through and gives lots of examples from history, whether it's Chinese history, European history, that demonstrates this is a problem. But it also seems to kind of fit the moment, because when you look at a lot of the BLM protests, when you look at a lot of the socialism that's being pushed in places like Los Angeles, New York, and Seattle, it's not the cab drivers that are voting for this stuff. It's not the, maybe a few of them, but it's not by and large the recent immigrants, although there's some doing that. It is by and large white, affluent, middle-class people that are living in New York, and they don't understand why they can't make a decent living with their comparative religion degree from an Ivy League school. And you did some very interesting research looking at some of the better-known leaders of the Democratic Socialist Alliance in America, and they seem to fit this profile.
Yeah, so Zohran Mamdani, the mayor of New York City, certainly would qualify as elite. So he is the son of an academic and a filmmaker. He gets a degree from He gets a degree in Africana Studies from Bowdoin College in 2014, and he goes on to work as, I believe, a rapper. So yeah, so kind of like one of those goes to an elite school, comes up with it's not economics,
right?
It's this more philosophical degree, if you like, and then doesn't really kind of add a lot of value in a traditional industry.
Well,
before.
and you can imagine what happened here. He graduated in 2014 from this elite school. Tuition's $80,000 a year.
Yeah,
comes back to New York. His parents, have all this real estate, big compound in Uganda. Beautiful apartment in New York, and he's like, why is the world not beating down my door? I'm so smart. I've got this degree from this elite school. So you're right. He becomes a rapper. He's a housing counselor, and then decides, guess what? I'm going to run as a socialist for political office. And when he served in the New York legislature, by the way, which doesn't pay that much, he was getting financial help from his parents. So he's an example in my mind of what we're talking about here with elite overproduction. He thought he was a member of the elite. It's not happening. Guess what? It's capitalism. It's capitalism's fault that nobody values me.
By the way, if you're listening to this podcast or watching, one of your takeaways, if you're a parent, I know one of my takeaways is stop supporting your children.
Yes.
Because if there's one common link between, I have terrible
your adult
news.
Children.
I have terrible news for my children. No, you guys are on your own dinner tonight, guys. It's like I've always wanted to when I show up with the kids at the restaurant, be like, it's separate checks,
right?
Just to see what the servers say. I might do it tonight because the common link is with Mamdani and the next two politicians we talk about. They have an over reliance on their parents for financial support well into their 30s, I think.
Yeah.
So James Tallarico is the next guy. He also kind of checks the box of this elite educational background, has a master's in education from the Harvard Graduate School, went on to got his Master of Divinity from Austin Presbyterian. So he's like heavily credentialed.
Right.
Has a job so Mamdani was a housing consultant.
Right.
Tallarico was an educational consultant on, let me see, diversity matters.
Yes.
Which is fun.
Yeah, I'm sure that paid him really well.
Has also financial ties still to his mommy.
Yeah. He's 37. He's running for this U.S. Senate. Financial disclosure came out. He shares a checking account. It's his only checking account with mommy.
Yeah.
And we also know that his parents, by the way, helped his moving expenses while he was in the Texas Senate. So again, this is a guy highly educated, 37 years old, not really going anywhere in the world. And what is he? He's not mad at himself. He's not mad at the people in academia that told him to get a master's degree in education. He's mad at the system for not recognizing how valuable and important he should be. He should be part of the elite.
Well, I don't know that James Tallarico would call himself a socialist, but he would certainly say he looks up to a well-known socialist, at least in his mind. Listen to who else he thinks is a socialist. He said this recently. Here's James Tallarico.
It's very strange every time I think about it that the most popular figure in our country, particularly on the conservative right, is this, socialist anarchist from ancient Palestine.
Yeah, so interesting. I learned a lot of things there about Jesus that, based on a couple thousand years of theology, I'd never heard before.
Well, listen, that's why you listen to the podcast, everybody. So,
and that's why he's part of the elite.
It's why he is part of the elite. He knows things about Jesus that you have yet to know. But you also have Graham Plattner. He's maybe the most well-known guy. He's kind of leading this guy, the Senate candidate in Maine. Despite the way he's been marketed, he's this rugged oysterman, and Maine, got the beard, you may have heard this. He has a tattoo. I'm not sure. But
I think, by the way, it's a socialist tattoo, as in a nationalist socialist.
I was focused on the socialist part, not so much the racist part, the socialist part.
Right.
But Graham Plattner also has a little elite boarding school background. Went to a boarding school in Connecticut, cost $75,000 a year. It's produced Supreme Court justices, CIA directors. Even Fox News anchor Chris Wallace went there. So he's in good company. But he also has a business relationship with his checks notes mother.
That's right. He's an oysterman, which he advertises. He does actually dig some oysters out from the ocean floor. He sells them to his mother and her restaurant. So you see what's happening here. These are people that consider themselves to be smart. I should be part of the elite. Why is, I've been told throughout my college career, I'm so smart and I'm so intelligent and I embrace all these amazing ideas that all my professors believe in. Why does nobody recognize my value? And what they do is they take that resentment that they have and they breed that resentment with other people. And that's why when you looked in New York, for example, Mayor of New York, one of the biggest winning demographics for him was young professionals. It was not working class people in New York. It was young professionals who, like him, highly educated, frustrated that they're not making more money with their comparative literature degree.
So I do think that's right. And that, there's like long-standing anthropological studies, not just with your elite capture guy, but like when there's a gap between expectation and reality, that's like the breeding ground for potentially kind of revolutionary sentiments. And so I'm not saying we are, but you've got some data to suggest that we are on the precipice potentially of a fundamental shift in what half this country looks for from their country, from their economic policy. 2/3 of Democrats, Peter Schweizer, view socialism favorably. 66% view socialism favorably. Only 42% view capitalism favorably.
Yeah.
So, that's kind of an underpinning of, society. And so it does seem to be something that is worth noting. So you combine that growing sentiment with this rise of politicians, not just in New York. You got the mayor in Seattle. You got the mayor candidate in Washington, D.C. You got a whole slate of candidates in New York.
For Congress.
Up for candidate. And you got a guy in Michigan. So you're seeing more of them show up. And it's worth pointing out that the socialism as an idea is clearly attractive. I've told you, you and I are both soccer guys. We're watching the World Cup, all these Europeans. This guy, Freddie, who's there, this German tourist, and he's now getting like the harvest of the bounty of this country. He's getting tickets to Ella Langley. He's getting flown to see the best stadiums. He's getting like the first class treatment. I believe that's actually what a lot of people in America believe America's capable of, sort of for everybody. I think they think, hey, we're wealthy, we're prosperous, we have abundance. We should all be able to benefit in some way from this. And when they don't, then I think to your point, they think, well, then the system should change because I deserve that too.
Yeah.
So I actually think Freddie, maybe he's like an underground spy for the socialists, ironically. But then your point would be, actually, it's not socialism that produces this abundance. It's the opposite.
Yeah, no, that's right. And it's very interesting to think about the comparison between the United States and our cousins and brothers and sisters in Europe, right?
Yeah. Inbred cousins.
And how they're doing or not doing well economically. And I think that's what's so interesting when you see these videos of people from Europe coming shocked that hotel rooms have, air conditioning, not window unit air conditioning, but central air conditioning. And it leads us to some really shocking numbers. And this is where my hope is that people, when they hear the siren call from the Democratic Socialists of America, they will actually take a look and compare the United States, which is not a perfect system, but compare it with another system of the world, and that would be Europe. And some really stunning statistics. The Times of London, which I read every day, I lived there for 2 years, and so I've always stuck up with. Shocking article they ran about the fact that European fans were coming to the United States, and they were kind of shocked how affluent middle class America is.
Like which we played the videos last week of people going to dang gas stations and be like, look how great this is.
Yeah, and all the food here and how inexpensive the food is. The Times of London did a study. They surveyed people in Great Britain, and they said if you compare the UK to a state in the United States in terms of living standard, what would you compare it to? And they picked Texas, they picked New York, they picked Florida. Here's the stunning reality, according to the Times of London. Quote, every single U.S. state, including those in traditionally poor Deep South, such as West Virginia, Alabama, and Mississippi, has a higher GDP per capita than the United Kingdom, according to the International Monetary Fund. In other words, the average person in Alabama and Mississippi, West Virginia, our poorest states, has a higher living standard than the average person in the United Kingdom. Completely shocking.
It is shocking. And it's, I've thought about this. I think part of it is just like we have so much more space.
Yeah.
And so, but they pack them in tight over in London. But it's interesting to point out. Also, your buddy Mark Thiessen tweeted this out. We think about, how hot it is here and the prevalence of air conditioning. It's a simple thing. But there were 2,394 heat deaths in the United States in 2024.
Yeah.
In Europe,
same year,
175,000 heat-related deaths, which is 12 times the number of deaths caused by gun violence in the United States.
Yeah.
So, you hear a lot about the United States, the guns and how much it kills people. They can't take care of the dang weather over in England.
And this goes to one of those, I think, points that's important to emphasize is we talked about the gross domestic product being higher for America's poorest states than the United Kingdom. This actually has life or death consequences because why are so many people dying of heat-related illnesses in Europe? It's because they don't have central air conditioning. They can't afford to have it. The cost of energy is too high. There's too many environmental restrictions. The point is, it's not just that we have more stuff in the United States. We have a better quality of life. And the fact that Europe, which is the developed world, which is the advanced developed world, has 175,000 heat-related deaths per year, according to the World Health Organization, is a shocking travesty. And it just shows that the economic failures of Europe actually does kill people.
But what's funny is so we're talking about this on this podcast. It's the week before we'll celebrate the 4th of July, the nation's 250th birthday. But you don't hear the virtues of capitalism and American freedom touted on a regular basis in a mainstream way. And that's one reason why among Democrats, the Democrat Socialist Association of America has a net favorability. They're plus 17 among Democrats opposed to just 4% favorability rating for regular Democrats in Congress. And it's, it kind of drove home to me. I went to the movies last week and I saw an ad for this Young Washington movie.
Yeah.
And and I just thought,
Young Washington, what's this about?
Take a guess. No, it's about George Washington.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to get. Young George Washington. Young Washington. I don't know.
It's not a mystery. But yeah, it's like George Washington is this British soldier, and he comes to America. Kind of wins some battles. It's got Kelsey Grammer in it. It's got some other. It's got actually Ben Kingsley in it. But I was struck by a couple things. Number one, it's put out by Angel Studios, right? Yeah. It's not put out by
Warner Brothers.
Yeah, one of the major Hollywood studios.
Right.
So here is this unabashedly pro-American history film. And I'm sitting there watching this thing, and it comes out on July 4th. I'm like, man, this thing is going to crush. I think it hits that sweet spot for pro-America. It's got some kind of conservative ideals behind it. On the nation when you're supposed to be celebrating patriotism. And I was like, man, how little of that do we get now?
Yeah. From the culture, from popular culture.
From so much the culture. And I do think it explains why when you forget who we are, then it's easy to kind of be talked into becoming something else. And I do think that that's what's happening in a bigger way than maybe it has before in the Democrat Party. You and I were talking about this before. I said, well, is this really new? Because, we had FDR, we had the New Deal. And your point was the New Deal is presented as this kind of experiment in socialism has been terrific, but that's not actually what it was.
Yeah, I mean, FDR made the case that the New Deal, you can argue about it, but he made the case that, no, this is just to preserve capitalism. Because there were people on the left who wanted European socialism, and FDR said, no, the way we're going to preserve the American system of free market capitalism is by instituting some reforms. The point is, it was not a socialist appeal. What we're seeing today from the Democratic Socialists of America is an appeal of socialism. They use the word, they describe the word, and of course, they never actually present a real-world example of where it's worked. They shift depending on which country happens to be failing at the time. But that's the point, right? We're dealing with real world America, which is not perfect, and they're creating some fictitious ideal that nobody can live up to, and they're pushing a system that does not work. And the problem is they're being fueled, I think, by this resentment from people who feel like they should be entitled to better economic and social success than they're having.
Well, and while the founding fathers didn't write against socialism per se, because that wasn't really a thing. Thomas Jefferson did write that taking from the industrious to give to others violates the first principle of association, the guarantee everyone has the right to the fruits acquired by the industry. John Adams wrote that property rights were fundamental to true liberty. Said property must be secured or liberty cannot exist. And it's just interesting because, this socialism is a word that gets thrown around a lot. And I was reminded, Peter Schweizer, that one of the first times I came to Washington, D.C., I hadn't been working with you for that long, and we came to Washington, D.C., and this was 2012, and so, Obama's president, and we're throwing around the word socialism a lot. Jeb Bush wrote an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, but guys, it's not really socialism, everybody just relax. And then you and I, we go meet with this Congressman Ted Yoho, and we were trying to kind of expose how Congress was working, all the corruption, and he sits down, it's me and you in his office, and he goes, now listen, before we begin, he's a large animal veterinarian from North Florida.
Right.
And he goes, before we begin, do you guys both agree that we're headed towards socialism?
Yeah.
And you're like, because you're trying to get information, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I don't know.
You've been reading too much Jeb Bush.
I've read too much, and you're kicking me under the table and everything. Shut up. But it is interesting. We are clearly further along in the path towards socialism than we were 14 years ago.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the strategy of the left. It's been their strategy from the beginning. They will say, all we want is this. If you give us this, everything will be fine. You give them that. And then they move on to the next thing. Only give us this. So the point is they're never satisfied, and it is an ongoing long trend. And I think we are in a society that is abundant. There's a lot of abundance in America compared to the rest of the world. People take it for granted. They don't know where it comes from. Younger people who believe that prosperity is just something that kind of is floating around there. You just grab it, and Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos are grabbing too much of it, so they need to give some of it back. They don't understand wealth creation. And this, to me, is perhaps the greatest threat that our country faces, because you can fend off foreign attacks, right? Because people will say, wait a minute, we don't want foreign attacks, but you have this sort of homegrown embrace of what are alien ideas. These are alien foreign ideas that have never worked, that are destructive and dangerous, and that are being pushed by these elites. Again, these are highly educated elites that are embracing this. A lot of people that I think are working class, they want to have the fruits of their labor like the founders talked about. They want to have a chance to make a better life for themselves. They're not the problem. It's these middle class, entitled elites that are highly educated who are mad because nobody's recognizing their quote-unquote value to society.
The irony, of course, is that if the problem is being created by the overproduction of elites, if we took steps to limit the production of elites, it's not a free market solution.
Right. Right. Exactly. Well, I think it's going to correct itself. And one of the ways it's correcting itself is colleges and universities are shutting down.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of the elite schools have these huge endowments. They can get by with a comparative literature program, but a lot of small colleges and universities can't. So there is a corrective message, but you're right. People are going to have to learn the hard way. And just because you made a bad choice in life and you have an overinflated view of yourself doesn't mean you have the right to impose socialism on the rest of us and push it in our society.
Well, and there's always a podcast. You know what I mean? As we're here to prove.
Exactly. Well, we appreciate you, as always, taking the time to listen to this podcast. We know your time is valuable. You can go to thedrilldown.com to see the kind of research and work that we're doing. And please also consider subscribing to this podcast. Thanks again for listening. Until next time.